Hey, folks, welcome back to Washington Watch. This form here literally could be worth billions of dollars. And I'm quite sure you should have received it by now. And here to explain what it means, filling out this simple form and why it's so important to the black community, Dr. Claire Nelson, president of the Institute of Caribbean Studies, Arnold Jackson, Associate Director for Decennial Census at the U.S. Census Bureau, and Marc Morial, President and CEO of the National Urban League. Folks, welcome to Washington Watch.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Again, we talk about, this simple form doesn't take long at all, but it is amazing how people just don't understand what this really means, the kind of money we're talking about, resources coming back to the community. And so, Arnold, for the audience, make it plain of what it really means, why we do this every 10 years.
We do this, Roland, because it's constitutionally mandated, but it does represent how over $400 billion a year get back to local communities.
And we're talking about what? We're talking about education,
we're talking
sewer
about
systems, parks, what?
Yes, we're talking about roads, we're talking about school programs, we're talking about health assistance programs, we're talking about bilingual education, recreation, and we're talking about retail development. Many folk don't know that most large retail outlets use census data to decide where they're going to put stores, where are they going to join in development.
Because they're looking at migration patterns, where people are moving, where they're building single-family homes, who's living in apartments, stuff like that.
Right. That and the census that's done every 10 years is the only source of information at the block level about who's where and who they are.
Now, Marc, of course, you run the Urban League, but in your previous life, you were mayor of New Orleans. And so you understand what this form actually means when you come to Washington, D.C., looking for resources.
Well, for local government, for local elected officials, for mayors and city council members and county executives, this census is critical to where the money comes and the allocation of those dollars. And so I think one of the things we're trying to emphasize is that the count is not a count for the sake of a count. It's a count that has a cause and that has a purpose, and that we can shortchange ourselves if we don't participate in the census. And that's what's important. So it's about political power. Reapportionment takes place in every state in the union after 2010. These numbers will determine which states add members of Congress, which states lose members of Congress, where in a state, and how district lines can in fact be drawn. And so when people think about how to advance and continue the political progress we've made, this census is probably the most important thing they're going to do this year.
Claire, what amazes me is when you talk to folks, I mean, they sit here and come up with all kind of reasons why not to fill it out. But these are the same folks who will be complaining about, the need to rebuild their school in terms of construction as well. And so when you're talking to people, how do you make it clear to them why this matters, not only in terms of people who are not in the United States, people who actually come to this country who really don't understand the process as well?
Well, I talk about quality of life. I bring it down to, look, you have a child that's 4 years old. I don't know, your child is there. Well, come time to plan, there'll be no school space for a child. I try and take it as personal as possible so they understand the relationship between the big numbers and the fact that their mayor, their city council, their congressperson, their policymakers require these numbers for good planning. So if you don't participate, if you don't see it as your responsibility to participate, we're not going to get the numbers we need to make good public policy. It's as simple as that.
Arnold, we've heard this whole debate, if you will, over Negro being on the form, and so just because the emails are going out around, why was that done, and what was the purpose behind it?
The term Negro, Roland, remains on the form because before the 2000 census, our research indicated that there were still a fair number of people who associated with that term. Going into 2010, we are already experimenting with how we can ask that question going forward without use of the term Negro. However, for the 2010 census, we did not do that research, and we don't do anything without a lot of testing. It is a term that probably will go away. However, let me emphasize that whether one considers themselves Negro, African American, or Black, it's most important to be counted.
Right.
That's an interesting debate that can go on.
I want to say this because I've gotten a lot of questions, and the form says African American, comma, black or Negro. So we don't want people who may not have seen the form to think that Negro, the term Negro is the exclusive term used for people of African descent here in the United States. And so we also, and I want to say this very clearly, the presence of that term on the form for people who may think it's an old-fashioned term, like I do, is not, should not be a reason not to participate in the census. And that's what we've got to emphasize in our community is get the form, take a look at the form. Could the form, and will there be modifications of the form for 2010? In all likelihood there will. But right now, we've got to keep our eye on political reapportionment, on the distribution of federal funds, and our right and responsibility to be completely and fully counted here in the United States.
Well, in the Caribbean community, we have an issue. And in the black immigrant community, we have an issue because people are reading it as African American as opposed to black. So we've had a huge conversation, complaints, criticisms, but the good thing is that as a part of our networking, we've created a Unity Diaspora Coalition, which brings together all of us, black immigrants from around the world and traditional historical African Americans, to talk about maybe we should go back just to being black. You check that if you're black, and then you write in your country. But for Caribbean people who still hang on to this idea of being mixed, or for Caribbean people who say they're not black, they're Asian, I simply say, look, it's self-identification.
Right.
If you feel yourself to be black, you check black, and you write in your country. If you're in Nigeria, Ghana, whatever, Colombia.
And there's space on here you can write in other.
Exactly.
Or just your country.
So just fill the form out. I mean, it's just one box.
And the beauty of it is that as a result of the conversations we've had with the census going back in 2008, and I must say they were very welcoming to us from the first day we went in, we have gotten agreement that if people write in Honduras or Colombia or Jamaica or Ghana or Nigeria, they will keep that data out so we can get it back to them so they will see that their efforts have not been in vain. And they've agreed to do that.
Well, Claire has explained it exactly as it is. And let me thank Claire and Marc, because both of their organizations represent a partnership effort that we did launch several years ago so that we could understand just these kind of issues. And what we've said and what I've said to her group and to other groups is just what she said.
Right.
Please be counted. If you want African American Congress people, state legislators, city council people, school board members, you've got to be counted so that the laws that enforce that can be executed. It's very, very important.
Folks, look, this is the form, all right? Just so y'all, this is it, all right? That's the front of it. It's not a lot. I mean, literally, it takes, my wife filled it out, it takes about 10 minutes. And so when you get this in the mail, don't throw it away. It's not a bill. No one is trying to, if you owe child support, calm down. They're not trying to come pick you up. So again, fill this out, because when you start asking for resources, trust me, you are going to want these dollars coming to your community. We certainly appreciate it. So Claire, Arnold, Marc, thanks a bunch.